What if I told you that God has shared 8 profound secrets, not in ancient times but today, meant for His chosen ones? These aren't just any secrets. They are divine whispers designed to guide, uplift, and transform lives. Could one of these secrets be calling out to you? Or is there a chance you might be overlooking these revelations, letting them pass you by without even realizing their power? By the end of this video, you'll uncover each of these secrets and learn how they can bring profound change to your life. So, stick around. And if something resonates with you deeply, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear which of these secrets touched your heart. PHYLLIS TICKLE, a name many associate with deep spiritual insight, believed that God's voice isn't confined to the past. She emphasized that divine wisdom continues to flow in the present, guiding those who are willing to listen. Her teachings remind us that God is still actively revealing truths to His chosen ones, offering them a path filled with clarity, purpose, and peace. These revelations aren't just ancient stories or concepts, they're real, timely, and meant to reach you where you are right now. Each of these 8 secrets holds the power to bring us closer to understanding God's purpose for us. They are reminders that even in the chaos of modern life, God's voice can be heard if we take a moment to pause and listen. It's not about being perfect or holy, it's about being open. Think about it. How many times have you felt a nudge in your heart, a quiet whisper, or an unexplainable peace in the middle of turmoil? That's God reaching out to you. These secrets are like keys, unlocking doors to a life of deeper connection with Him. As we reveal each secret, take a moment to reflect. Has God been trying to show you something through silence, gratitude, or even nature? Do you feel drawn to trust His timing or embrace the strength He's placed in your weakness? These aren't just ideas, they're living, breathing truths waiting to take root in your life. And as you hear them, we'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe you've experienced one of these secrets firsthand, or maybe this is your first time hearing about them. Whatever it is, don't keep it to yourself. Share your journey with us. Before we dive into the secrets, let this thought sink in. God chooses ordinary people to reveal extraordinary truths. Could today be your moment to hear His call? If these secrets inspire or move you, take a second to hit the like button, share this message with someone who needs it, and subscribe to our channel for more insights. Let's walk this journey of wisdom and faith together. You're here for a reason, and that reason might just be one of these 8 secrets. So, are you ready to uncover them? Let's begin. Secret 1: the power of silence. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a sacred space where God speaks directly to the heart. PHYLLIS TICKLE often spoke about the transformative power of silence, describing it as one of the most overlooked yet profound ways God connects with His chosen ones. In her teachings, she suggested that the world's constant chatter and distractions often drown out the divine whispers that guide us toward our purpose. If you've ever felt lost, overwhelmed, or unsure of your next step, chances are you haven't given yourself the gift of silence. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in complete stillness, with no agenda, no thoughts racing through your mind, and no phone buzzing by your side? For many, the idea of silence can feel intimidating. It confronts us with our own thoughts and vulnerabilities. Yet this is exactly where God meets us. PHYLLIS believed that in these quiet moments, when we strip away the noise, we create a direct pathway to hear God's voice. She often shared a story. Imagine a shepherd calling his sheep. In the middle of a noisy marketplace, the sheep might miss the shepherd's call. But in the stillness of the open field, the same call is unmistakable. This is how silence works for God's chosen ones. It's the field where His voice becomes clear, His direction unmistakable. Tickle once described her own experience of silence as a revelation, where the absence of words led to an overflow of understanding, peace, and clarity. But how can we cultivate this sacred silence in our modern lives? It doesn't require hours of meditating on a mountaintop. PHYLLIS Tickle suggested starting small, 5 minutes in the morning or before bed. Sit in a quiet space, close your eyes, and simply be. You might find it uncomfortable at first, with thoughts rushing in like an uninvited crowd. That's okay. Let those thoughts come and go, like waves on a shore. Over time, the noise will fade, and you'll begin to notice something else: peace. A kind of peace that comes not from what you hear, but from what you feel deep within. Silence also teaches us patience, a trait that PHYLLIS associated with spiritual maturity. She believed that God's chosen ones often find their answers not in the words they speak, but in the silence they embrace. When we stop trying to control every outcome and learn to sit in the quiet, God's answers become clearer. In her writing, she highlighted how silence is not empty. It's full of divine presence, waiting to fill the space we create. For those of us who feel disconnected, unfulfilled, or spiritually dry, silence may be the key we've been missing. It's not just a spiritual practice, it's a way of life. PHYLLIS Tickle's insights remind us that through silence, we don't just hear God's voice, we align ourselves with His will. This secret, simple as it may seem, holds the potential to transform everything. Secret 2: trusting in divine timing. One of the most challenging yet rewarding secrets God reveals to His chosen ones is the importance of trusting His timing. PHYLLIS Tickle often spoke about the divine rhythm that governs our lives, a rhythm that isn't always aligned with our expectations. She believed that understanding and surrendering to God's timing is a mark of true spiritual wisdom. Think about it. How often do we try to force things to happen? Whether it's a career breakthrough, healing from heartbreak, or even a simple answer to prayer, we want everything now. But God's plan doesn't work on our schedules. PHYLLIS often used the analogy of a gardener. Imagine planting a seed. You water it, give it sunlight, and care for it daily, but you cannot rush its growth. The seed will sprout when it's ready, not when you demand it to. This, she explained, is how God's timing works. He knows when we're ready, even if we don't. Tickle shared stories, both personal and from the lives of others, about how trusting in divine timing brought about unexpected blessings. She would say that waiting isn't just about patience, it's about preparation. During the waiting period, God is often working behind the scenes, aligning events, people, and circumstances for a greater purpose. This is why the chosen ones learn to embrace the waiting, trusting that when the time is right, everything will fall into place. But how do we develop this trust? PHYLLIS suggested that it starts with releasing control. As humans, we're wired to want answers, solutions, and results immediately. Letting go of this need for control isn't easy, but it's essential. She advised starting with small acts of surrender, like pausing to pray when you feel impatient, or taking a moment to reflect on times when waiting led to something beautiful in your life. One of her most powerful insights was this: delay is not denial. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Sometimes God delays because He wants to give us something better than what we're asking for. Other times, the delay is about shaping us, teaching us resilience, faith, and gratitude. PHYLLIS believed that every moment of waiting is an opportunity for growth, and God uses this time to refine us into the people we're meant to be. For God's chosen ones, trusting His timing isn't about passively waiting, it's about actively preparing. During this time, we can deepen our faith, strengthen our character, and open our hearts to His plan. Tickle often reminded her readers that God sees the bigger picture. What might feel like a delay or setback to us is often a step forward in His divine plan. Trusting in divine timing means believing that what's meant for you will never pass you by. It means surrendering your timeline and accepting His, knowing that His timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't feel that way. This secret is a profound reminder that faith isn't just about believing in God's power. It's about trusting His plan. Secret 3. The strength found in weakness. One of the most paradoxical secrets God reveals to His chosen ones is that true strength often comes from embracing weakness. PHYLLIS TICKLE highlighted this truth in her teachings, emphasizing that vulnerability is not a flaw but a gateway to divine power. She believed that our weaknesses create space for God's strength to shine through, allowing us to achieve what we never could on our own. In our culture, weakness is often seen as something to hide. We're taught to put on a brave face, handle things alone, and avoid showing cracks in our armor. But Phyllis would argue that these cracks are precisely where God's light enters. She often referenced the Apostle Paul's words, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." This isn't just a comforting phrase, it's a profound spiritual truth that changes how we view ourselves and our struggles. Imagine a time when you felt utterly helpless, unable to solve a problem or face a challenge on your own. Maybe it was a moment of financial hardship, illness, or emotional pain. While those moments feel heavy, they also strip away our illusions of control, leaving us open to something greater. Phyllis often said that God's chosen ones understand that weakness is not the end. It's the beginning of transformation. She shared a powerful metaphor about clay. A potter molds clay into a beautiful vessel, but the clay must first be soft and pliable. If it's rigid or unyielding, it can't be shaped. In the same way, our moments of weakness make us pliable in God's hands, allowing Him to mold us into something extraordinary. This isn't about staying weak. It's about allowing God to turn our weakness into His strength. Phyllis also believed that acknowledging our limitations fosters deeper connections with others. When we are honest about our struggles, we invite empathy and community. God often uses our weakness to not only transform us, but to help others. She would point to stories of people who overcame addiction, illness, or trauma, not through their own might, but through surrendering to God. Their stories inspire others to find hope in their own journeys. For God's chosen ones, strength in weakness is also about humility. It's a reminder that we're not self-sufficient, and that's okay. Tickle often said that pride keeps us from experiencing God's full power, while humility allows us to step aside and let Him work. When we embrace our limitations, we make room for His unlimited grace. This secret challenges the worldly view of strength. It teaches us that we don't have to carry every burden alone, nor do we need to have all the answers. Our weakness isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a reminder that we are human, and that's where God steps in to make us extraordinary. By leaning into this truth, we unlock a divine source of strength that empowers us to overcome challenges and fulfill our purpose in ways we never imagined. Secret 4. The gift of discernment. One of the most powerful gifts God bestows upon His chosen ones is discernment. The ability to see beyond the surface and recognize the truth in any situation. Phyllis Tickle believed that discernment isn't just a skill, it's a divine compass, guiding God's people through life's complexities and helping them make decisions aligned with His will. She often described it as a spiritual sixth sense, sharpening with faith and practice. In a world filled with noise, opinions, and endless distractions, discernment acts as a filter, helping us distinguish God's voice from the chaos around us. Phyllis compared it to tuning a radio. Sometimes the static is so overwhelming that we can't hear the message. But with patience and focus, we can find the right frequency. Discernment is the process of finding that divine frequency, where clarity replaces confusion, and God's direction becomes unmistakable. Phyllis often spoke about discernment as both a protective shield and a guiding light. It protects us from falling into traps, whether they are bad decisions, harmful relationships, or deceptive influences. At the same time, it illuminates the right path, showing us opportunities we might otherwise miss. For God's chosen ones, this gift is a reminder that spiritual wisdom isn't just about knowledge, it's about knowing when to act, when to wait, and when to let go. One of her teachings on discernment emphasized the importance of quiet reflection. She believed that discernment isn't about reacting quickly, but pausing to seek God's guidance. In her own life, she practiced what she called the holy pause. Before making any significant decision, she would take time to pray, reflect, and listen. She often shared stories of how these pauses led to insights she couldn't have reached on her own. Decisions that seemed impossible to navigate suddenly became clear. Phyllis also linked discernment to humility. She believed that those who rely solely on their intellect or experience often miss God's guidance. Discernment requires us to admit that we don't have all the answers and to seek wisdom from a higher source. It's in this act of surrender that God reveals His plans most clearly. In practical terms, discernment also teaches us to trust our instincts, especially when they align with God's principles. Phyllis encouraged people to pay attention to those subtle nudges or feelings that often seem unexplainable. She would say, "If it's from God, it will bring peace, not chaos." This doesn't mean every decision will be easy, but it will feel right at a soul-deep level. For God's chosen ones, discernment is a tool that grows with use. The more we trust it, the stronger it becomes. Phyllis Tickle believed that cultivating discernment was like building a relationship. It requires time, trust, and openness. Through prayer, reflection, and listening to God's Word, this gift becomes an anchor in a world that often feels like it's adrift. With discernment, God's chosen ones can navigate life's challenges with confidence, knowing they are walking the path He intended. Secret 5. The importance of gratitude. Gratitude is more than just saying thank you. It's a divine practice that transforms how we see the world and strengthens our connection with God. Phyllis Tickle often described gratitude as the language of heaven, a way for God's chosen ones to align their hearts with His will. She believed that gratitude isn't just a response to blessings, but a posture of the soul, a way of living that invites more grace into our lives. In her writings, Phyllis emphasized that gratitude begins with noticing. The simple act of paying attention to life's small, often overlooked blessings is where gratitude takes root. She shared stories of how, even in moments of difficulty, a grateful heart can find beauty. Whether it's the warmth of the sun, the laughter of a loved one, or the quiet peace of prayer, these are all gifts waiting to be recognized. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, opening our eyes to the abundance around us. But why is gratitude so essential for God's chosen ones? Phyllis believed that gratitude creates a spiritual feedback loop. When we express thanks, we acknowledge God as the source of all goodness, and this acknowledgement deepens our faith. It's like strengthening a relationship. The more we appreciate someone, the closer we feel to them. Gratitude works the same way with God. It draws us nearer to Him and allows His blessings to flow more freely into our lives. Phyllis often spoke about how gratitude changes our perspective on challenges. Life isn't without hardship, and God's chosen ones are not immune to struggles. But gratitude teaches us to see even difficulties as opportunities for growth. She recounted the story of a friend who faced a devastating loss, but found healing by focusing on the support of family and the strength of faith. This shift didn't erase the pain, but allowed gratitude to coexist with grief, bringing peace in the midst of sorrow. Practical gratitude, Phyllis taught, doesn't have to be complicated. She suggested keeping a gratitude journal jotting down 3 things each day that bring joy or comfort. This habit, she believed, rewires our hearts and minds to seek the good, even in tough situations. For the chosen ones, it's a daily practice of spiritual discipline, a way to stay grounded in faith and hope. Phyllis also tied gratitude to humility. She believed that a grateful heart acknowledges that we are not self-made. Every blessing, every breath comes from God's grace. This humility not only strengthens our relationship with Him, but also nurtures compassion for others. Gratitude reminds us of our shared humanity, encouraging kindness, generosity, and understanding. In her life, Phyllis Tickle radiated gratitude, even in her later years when her health declined. She once said, "Gratitude doesn't deny the difficulty of life, it transforms it." This secret of gratitude, when embraced, becomes a powerful force, reshaping how we live, love, and connect with God. For the chosen ones, gratitude isn't just an act, it's a way of seeing, a way of being, and a way of experiencing the divine in everyday life. Secret 6. The role of forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most profound and liberating secrets God reveals to His chosen ones. Phyllis Tickle often spoke of forgiveness as the ultimate act of grace, not just something we receive from God, but something we are called to extend to others and even ourselves. She believed forgiveness wasn't just an emotional release, but a spiritual discipline that aligns us with God's heart. Phyllis described forgiveness as a bridge, a connection between our humanity and God's divine nature. She often explained that forgiving someone doesn't mean excusing their behavior or forgetting the pain they caused. Instead, it's about releasing the hold that anger, resentment, and bitterness have on our hearts. For God's chosen ones, forgiveness is a path to freedom, not for the other person, but for ourselves. Tickle would often reflect on the words of Jesus, "Forgive, and you will be forgiven." She believed that forgiveness is a divine transaction, a way of opening ourselves to God's mercy by showing mercy to others. Holding on to grudges, she taught, is like carrying a heavy stone. It weighs us down, drains our energy, and blocks the blessings God wants to pour into our lives. When we forgive, we set that weight down, making room for peace and healing. But forgiveness is easier said than done, isn't it? Phyllis acknowledged this, often saying that forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. She encouraged people to start small, by praying for the strength to forgive, even if the feelings of anger or hurt are still present. Over time, as we surrender our pain to God, He softens our hearts and makes forgiveness possible. She also emphasized the importance of forgiving ourselves. Many of us carry guilt or shame for past mistakes, believing that we're unworthy of grace. But Phyllis reminded her audience that God's forgiveness is unconditional. If He has already forgiven us, who are we to hold ourselves captive? Learning to forgive ourselves is often the first step toward experiencing the fullness of God's love. Phyllis shared many stories of how forgiveness transformed lives. One striking example was of a woman who forgave the drunk driver responsible for her son's death. Through her forgiveness, she not only found peace, but also inspired countless others to let go of their own pain. Phyllis believed that these acts of forgiveness are powerful testimonies of God's love working through His chosen ones. Forgiveness also has the power to heal relationships. Phyllis often highlighted how fractured families and friendships could be restored through the courage to forgive. She believed that forgiveness doesn't just heal individuals, it heals communities. It creates a ripple effect, spreading grace far beyond the original act. In her teachings, Phyllis Tickle reminded us that forgiveness is a divine gift, but it's also a choice. It's a decision to trust God's justice rather than seeking our own. For God's chosen ones, forgiveness is a sacred act of faith, demonstrating that we believe in his ability to restore what has been broken and redeem what has been lost. It's not just about letting go. It's about moving forward, free and unburdened, toward the life God has prepared for us. Secret 7. The connection with nature. God's chosen ones often find that nature is not merely a backdrop to life, but a living testimony of his presence, creativity, and wisdom. Phyllis Tickle believed that one of the most overlooked ways God reveals himself is through the natural world. She referred to creation as God's first cathedral, a sacred space where his voice can be heard and his truths discovered. Phyllis often spoke about the deep connection between spirituality and nature. She believed that spending time in God's creation isn't just refreshing for the soul, it's a way to draw closer to him. In nature, she explained, we see God's character, his power in the mountains, his gentleness in a soft breeze, his renewal in the changing seasons. For God's chosen ones, this connection isn't just about admiring beauty. It's about recognizing that the Creator is speaking through every leaf, every stream, and every sunrise. She often shared her personal experiences of encountering God in nature. One story she told was about sitting in her garden at dawn, watching the light slowly spread across the sky. In those quiet moments, she felt God's peace in a way that words couldn't express. For Phyllis, these encounters weren't rare. They were available to anyone willing to slow down, step outside, and simply pay attention. Phyllis believed that nature also teaches us spiritual lessons. Take the trees, for example. Their roots grow deeper during storms, anchoring them firmly to the ground. Similarly, she said, life's challenges are like storms that strengthen our faith, grounding us more firmly in God. The cycles of nature, birth, growth, decay, and renewal, remind us of God's design for our own lives. They teach us patience, resilience, and trust in his timing. For God's chosen ones, connecting with nature is also an act of stewardship. Phyllis often emphasized that caring for creation is a way of honoring the Creator. She believed that when we protect the environment, we participate in God's ongoing work of sustaining life. This responsibility, she said, is a calling for everyone, but especially for those who feel a deep connection to God's will. Phyllis encouraged simple, intentional practices to foster this connection. Taking a walk in a park, sitting by a river, or even tending to a small garden can become acts of worship. She believed that these moments of stillness and awareness in nature bring clarity and refreshment. They remind us that no matter how chaotic life gets, God's order and peace are always present in creation. She also spoke about how nature can heal the soul. When life feels overwhelming, stepping outside and observing the intricate details of creation, the way a flower blooms, the sound of birds singing, can remind us of God's care and creativity. These moments of awe bring us back to a place of gratitude and faith. Phyllis Tickle's teachings on the connection with nature remind us that God isn't confined to churches or prayer rooms. His presence fills the earth, inviting us to experience his love and wisdom in every corner of creation. For God's chosen ones, this connection is more than a spiritual practice. It's a relationship with the Creator himself, nurtured through the beauty and lessons of the natural world. Secret 8. The power of prayer. For God's chosen ones, prayer is far more than a ritual. It is a lifeline, a direct and intimate connection with the Creator. Phyllis Tickle often described prayer as the heartbeat of the spiritual life, the rhythm that sustains and nourishes our relationship with God. She believed that prayer isn't just about speaking to God. It's about aligning ourselves with His will, listening for His guidance, and experiencing His presence in a deeply personal way. Phyllis often explained that prayer comes in many forms: silent reflection, spoken words, or even moments of awe and gratitude. But at its core, prayer is about relationship. She likened it to a conversation with a trusted friend, where honesty, vulnerability, and openness are key. For the chosen ones, this ongoing dialogue with God is essential, not just for asking for help, but for building trust, seeking clarity, and growing in faith. One of her most profound teachings on prayer was its power to transform not just circumstances, but the person praying. Phyllis believed that prayer isn't always about getting what we ask for. It's about being shaped by the act of asking. She would say, "When we pray, God might not change the situation, but He changes us." In moments of prayer, our fears can turn into courage, our confusion into peace, and our despair into hope. Phyllis often shared a story about a difficult period in her life when she felt overwhelmed and directionless. During this time, she turned to prayer, not as a last resort, but as a daily practice. She didn't receive immediate answers or solutions, but she found that prayer gave her the strength to persevere, the patience to wait, and the wisdom to recognize God's hand at work when the time was right. This experience deepened her conviction that prayer is one of the most powerful tools God has given His chosen ones. She also highlighted the communal aspect of prayer. While personal prayer is vital, praying with others can amplify its power. Phyllis often spoke about the spiritual energy that emerges when a group gathers in prayer, whether it's a family, a church, or even strangers united by a shared intention. This collective prayer, she believed, not only strengthens individuals, but also creates a ripple effect, touching lives far beyond the immediate circle. Phyllis encouraged people to approach prayer with authenticity. "There's no right way to pray," she said. "Whether your prayers are formal and structured or simple and spontaneous, what matters is the sincerity of your heart." She often reminded her audience that even a silent cry for help is a prayer, and God hears every word, even the ones we can't bring ourselves to say. One of the most inspiring aspects of her teachings on prayer was her belief in its power to heal, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. She shared countless stories of people who found strength, forgiveness, and even miracles through prayer. For God's chosen ones, prayer is a reminder that no matter how distant God may feel, He is always near, always listening, and always ready to respond. Phyllis Tickle's insights on prayer remind us that it is both a gift and a responsibility. It's an invitation to draw closer to God, to seek His guidance, and to rest in His presence. For those who embrace it, prayer becomes a source of strength, clarity, and unshakable faith. A secret that transforms not just moments, but entire lives. As we come to the end of these 8 profound secrets God has revealed to His chosen ones, let's take a moment to reflect. Each of these truths, silence, divine timing, strength in weakness, discernment, gratitude, forgiveness, connection with nature, and the power of prayer, is not just a concept, but an invitation. These are pathways to a life filled with peace, purpose, and a deeper connection to God. They remind us that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect. It means being open to His guidance, His lessons, and His love. These secrets aren't hidden. They're all around us, waiting for us to notice, embrace, and live by them. Perhaps you've already experienced one or more of these truths in your own life. Or maybe today is the first time they've truly resonated with you. Either way, these secrets are God's way of saying, "I'm here, and I have something beautiful planned for you." But this journey doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. Every day is an opportunity to deepen your understanding, to practice these secrets, and to share them with others. Imagine what our world could look like if more people embraced gratitude, forgiveness, and prayer. Imagine the healing, the hope, and the harmony that could flow from these divine truths. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these 8 secrets spoke to you the most? Was there a moment that made you pause and think, "This is for me"? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're building a community of wisdom seekers, and your story might inspire someone else. If this video touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Click the like button to show your support. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more spiritual wisdom and uplifting content. By joining us, you're not just watching a video, you're becoming part of a journey toward a life of faith, purpose, and connection. Thank you for spending this time with us. Remember, you are chosen, and God's secrets are His way of drawing you closer to Him. Until next time, stay open, stay faithful, and keep seeking the beauty of His truth.